Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz, and I am back with my very favorite card from the new Trinity Stamps release. We are going to create a toaster-shaped card that actually pops up this little piece of toast. It is so stinking cute. This is the toaster card die set, and it is magical. The toaster itself is about the size of an A2 card, and then there's also a die to make a shaped card that is this small piece of toast. The toast is really quick and easy, so I thought let's step up the toaster itself. This is what the die set looks like, okay? So shaped card on the top, there's some wording included in the set. You guys were only using one die set today. That's it. I have cut the larger piece of my toaster from a slightly darker red and then a bright cherry red for the front panel. And I'm coming in with my Sharpie acrylic marker in white. I wanted a really bold shine mark on this top left corner and then down in the bottom right. I just thought it matched the sort of bold, whimsical lines of this toaster. This felt brave for me. I know there are people who put shine marks with white gel pen on their colored images all the time. That is not me. So actually I did a couple practices off camera. You'll see them later. But this turned out so much better than I even could have imagined. So I'm going to take this front red piece and I'm going to stack it up twice. This is going to be a chunky monkey card, but you know what? When I make a pop-up, it's hand delivered because I want to see what happens when they open it and they move it for the first time. So I am not worried about that. I figured let's just go big and give it dimension all the places where I want to give it dimension. So there's a bottom piece that I have cut from some silver cardstock, and then this front panel is going to rest right on top of it. They butt right up against each other. It's super quick and easy to put the toaster together. To do the toast, I had some cream cardstock, but it wasn't the right color, right? Like it wasn't gonna work for toast. So I'm just coming around the edges with a little bit of very pale brown ink. And I made 3 of them. We're gonna use 2. For the actual card-shaped die, I'm coming around the edges of some craft cardstock with a medium brown ink just to give it a little darker color, and then a lot of that is going to get covered up. So I'll do all the edges and then I'll fold it in half and make sure that we're getting that inside edge as well. Otherwise, it's going to look a little bit funny. So don't forget to do the inside edge. I do like to burnish that and really press it down. I use my Ergonomic like bone folder from Trinity to help with that. And this comes together super easily. So here's the shaped card, and I will just glue on the lighter pieces. In theory, I would add them to the front, back, and inside. But because this is going to be sliding in and out of a little sleeve that lifts it like a little elevator for the toast, it's going to slide in and out a little better if I don't have one on the back. So I skipped that, but certainly you could add it if you wanted to. You also could just pull the toast in and out of the toaster, right? We're going to make a mechanism, but you don't have to. It really would be very easy to just add a bunch of foam tape around the outside edges and leave a pocket so you could just pull this out, right? But we're doing the very fancy version. I am going to layer up 2 of that back piece just because the very top is thin and I've used 80-pound cardstock here. I don't want that to get bent or warped as people are playing with this. So my front panel is done and now I'm working on the back. The slot in the toaster cuts all the way through, but I want it to stay in there. So I have like puzzle pieced my opening back in there, and then I'm just going to use some mint tape. You could use a piece of cardstock, anything like that. I've added some glue for extra security, and I'm just going to tape over that, and then I will sandwich another layer right on top of that. The toaster is symmetrical, so I love that. That means that I can have the pretty side of the die cut facing out on both sides. Glue all over the place. I will lay this right on top. And when I go to add in the red piece, I'm like, it doesn't look right. I wanted it black right in there. So I'm going to add my glue, and then you're going to see I'm grabbing a little black strip to put on the inside as well. Then I decided to go back and do that to the other side. So it really hadn't had long to dry. It wasn't hard to try to peel that back out. My little pickup stick from Trinity is really helpful for tasks like that. And then I just cut a new piece of cardstock. I decorated the back panel the same way as the front. You can see my practice shine marks here. Actually, even the first ones came out pretty good, I thought. It's not too hard to do. And so I've just glued on a bottom silver piece, added my shine marks, and then added on that red front panel. So now I have two pieces. I have my toast to go on the inside. There are little black pieces on the side there that are the lever. And certainly you could just add foam all the way around, glue on your levers, and be done. But I didn't want to do that. So I have a piece of 65-pound cardstock here. It's a little easier to work with. It's 3 inches wide, and I'm scoring at 1.5 inches. And I'm just going to fold that in half. I'm not super worried about neatness or measurements. No one's going to see this. And so I am just cutting like a little rectangle out of here, and I'm going to fold over the long flap. We're making a pocket. A little bit of glue, wrap that around. This is so much easier with a 65 or 80-pound cardstock. If I tried it with 100, it's just a lot of cardstock to try to bend this way. I'm using a pencil just to mark a little bit outside of my toast. I don't want this super tight or it's going to be really difficult to get it back into the pocket. Okay. Then I removed one of the rectangles and the long flap will get folded around just like the first one. So here we go. We have a pocket for our little piece of toast. Look at that. It fits nicely. It goes in and out really easily. And I'm going to tuck this so that you can sort of barely see the toast peeking up above the toaster. And I'm going to go ahead and temporarily tape that to the toaster. I'm also going to get one of my little levers that goes on the side. I'm going to put it in the lowest position that I think looks sort of natural, and I'm going to tape that on there as well. When we create our mechanism, it's really important to know where everything should be in the end. Then I've slid a piece of heavyweight black cardstock underneath. I'm tracing around my pocket, and then I'll flip it over and trace around my lever. I need something that can connect the pocket to the lever. That's what we're doing. We're just creating a little template, okay? So I'm going to slide this down just so I can see kind of where the lever is on the other side as well. And I will use my pencil to kind of connect that. You could keep more height on that left-hand side for part of it. It might even make it a little sturdier. I'm just doubling mine up. So it wasn't a big deal that I'm actually going to cut this down and it's going to be a little thin where the lever is. This entire piece of cardstock is going to be completely hidden on the card. So truly, like, follow the lines, but you don't need to be real precious about it. I'm just trying to get the basic shape here, and then we'll double check and make sure that everything's going to be hidden. As I bring this back to the toaster here, you can see the only part that would stick out is where that lever is. And it's just a little too big on the bottom. Easy enough. I'll just trim that away. The lever's going to get glued on top of it and behind it, completely sandwiching that in. I made a cut on this piece that I really didn't want. So I have added glue and a little bit of mint tape. It's like Post-it tape just to kind of hold it together. And then I am gluing this onto a whole nother piece of black cardstock. Again, I like it to be super, super sturdy. In my brain, my cards get kept for about 80 years. So I go like above and beyond for sturdiness. There's also lots of kids in my family. And so cards like this get passed around and played with by people who are all like hopped up on family time and sugar. So that's, do as you will. You probably could just use one layer of heavyweight black cardstock. Here I am gluing my pocket onto that lever mechanism. Ignore the rest of it in the background. I made the slider mechanism and wasn't happy with it. So we're going to do it a little differently this second time, but you can see how that's going to line up in my toaster. So here I have a piece of cardstock that's about 2.5 inches wide. I want a track for that pocket to follow, right? If you skip this part, and you can, it's gonna be all wonky. It's going to lift up and down and end up at weird angles. I want it to lift straight up and down. And so that's what this is doing. I have just traced the top and bottom of my toaster, and I'm actually going to trim off just a little bit more. I want this to hide entirely inside the toaster. And then I have like a 1.5 probably inch piece of cardstock. Again, 65-pound here. It was a little bit easier. And I am going to wrap this around that slider mechanism, I'm not going super tight. It needs to be able to move and to slide. And so I purposefully sort of wrapped it. And before I wrapped that second side, I backed it up a little bit. I gave it just a fraction of a millimeter of a centimeter, okay? It is not a ton of extra space, but enough that it's not going to stick or tear the cardstock. I'm laying the whole mechanism down on the inside of my toaster, and I'm just drawing pencil lines so I know exactly where to put this in. I am also sliding that red mechanism up and down and marking the highest point it can go where you won't see the mechanism and the lowest point while still having enough glued to the inside of the toaster, and we're not going to end up with something that's falling apart. I'll use those lines and add my glue only in those areas, right? So I want it to be able to slide in between those pencil lines. And then I'm just going to give it some time to dry. You want that really, really dry, because if you slide that up or down and it sort of jams into the glue, it's going to be glued shut. It's not going to move anymore. So I stepped away and then came back and added some glue all over that slider mechanism, and I can set my pocket right on top of it. And this is going to work brilliantly. Okay, so I have my little sort of black piece sticking out the side, and I will just cover that up with my levers now. I am tucking these a little further in than how the die was designed. If you're just sort of gluing it flat down onto a card, it butts up beautifully right against the toaster, but I don't want anybody to be able to see sort of the inside part of that lever. It's going to get weird while it's moving because the toaster is curved. So I have tucked them a little further in here. And you can see it is sliding beautifully. There is still just a little bit of wiggle, but not like there would be if we skipped that slider track. I am using Pear Blossom Press's World's Best Foam Tape. I love this stuff. You know why? Because I put my foam tape on there the first time, glued everything down and markered up my foam tape to match my toaster. And when I went to put the back panel on, it wasn't thick enough. So I was able to peel it all back off because it's repositionable for 30 minutes. I know. It just sort of takes the stress out of interactive cards. And it's worth noting, this is double thick foam tape, and I have doubled it up. I told you this was a chunky monkey. It just is. But I wanted to make sure that this wasn't getting squashed by the foam tape or not enough foam tape, right? And then that could impede the mechanism and keep it from sliding as well as I wanted. I went along the edges of that foam tape with an alcohol marker. A Sharpie would work here just to make it match the toaster a little bit better. I did the first couple before I set the tape down, and then I was like, let's just put it on the toaster and then color it up. So some of it's going on there still white. It's easy enough to kind of color it in. I just have to use a light hand to make sure that the ink isn't going to soak through any of the cardstock that I might touch. I'm putting a little bit of extra foam tape right underneath that lever. It's a stopper, so I know not to let it go any farther than that. And then I am lifting up that toast as far as I want it to go to its highest point, and I will add just this tiny little wedge of foam tape. Again, it's a little bit of support for the card, and it's a stopper for the mechanism because I don't want them to be able to see that pocket. It shouldn't happen anyway because we have that track, and the track has a stopper in it too, but it will help. Every step along the way, I am double checking my mechanism and making sure that it's gonna work. But here, everything looks good. I already have the release paper off that foam tape. It sort of falls off as I'm cutting it down into smaller strips. And I will just sandwich these two pieces together. You guys, we have a toaster and it works. For our sentiment, I'm using the word dies that come in the same set. This is truly like a one die set card, right? Which is nuts for me. My brain is everywhere and I'm pulling out every die set and stamp set I own. So I have cut the word toast with Rip and Stick double-sided adhesive on the back so that they're like stickers and they're really easy to just line up on that shadow. And then I'm doing this calls for a. These do not have shadow dies, so I've just sort of arranged them all wonky above the word toast. I put the negative onto my toaster. It's just sort of sitting there. And there's rip and stick sheet on the backs of these letters too. So I know where I want them. I don't have to worry about lining them up. And I will just puzzle piece these into the negative. They keep coming up because I didn't tape them down. Usually I would use like my mint tape or some other removable tape to hold those in place, but apparently I couldn't be bothered. There is a separate sentiment in there that's "Let's Toast to You" that you could use instead. Check out the Trinity website. There is tons of inspiration, other people using this and different variations of where to put the wording. But here is our finished card, my friends. I love the bright cherry red. I love that we have this working lever and our mini card. I almost put a little jelly on that toast. The Every Pizza Me coordinating die set has like little dies that will cut out a heart-shaped pizza. And one of those heart shapes is like the perfect organic heart jelly shape. So that would be super fun. I was, I think, too scared to do it at this point. But friends, I hope this inspires you. Go ahead and check out the new Trinity release. I'm absolutely in love with it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.